Already looks very interesting. All right. We got, what is it called? Splinters of Wrath is what her new source stacking thing is called. Basically, the way it works, let me just read this rundown for you guys. She collects up to 120 splinters. This fucking website has an error with their wording. Here? Cool, guys. Yeah, so you get a Splinter of Wrath by damaging an enemy champion and gaining levels. The Splinters of Wrath enhance her abilities. So yeah, similar to Victor passive, you know, stacking up on CS and takedowns, upgrades your abilities. Same thing with Syndra now. She restores mana whenever she collects a Splinter from an enemy. But not too much mana. Seems like it's like very low amount early on. But it's like higher up later on in the game. So, I mean, she pretty much will never have mana problems again once you get to late game. That might actually allow her to go like some weird build with no mana item. Who knows? Curious to see. Okay. So yeah, you get a Splinter of Wrath when you damage an enemy champion with 2 abilities within 4 seconds. Grants 1, 2, 3 at levels 1. Okay, so you can get up to 3 Splinters of Wrath at level 18 if you already aren't at 120. I guess that's why. So yeah, damaging an enemy with 2 abilities within 4 seconds grants you Splinters of Wrath. When you level up, you get 5 Splinters. When you kill a Cannon, you get 1. And yeah, you get 1 every single time you damage an enemy with 2 abilities. So very cool. At 120 Splinters, you gain 15% total AP. That's huge. Ability icons change, who cares? So this is like interesting. They're actually attacking her early lane. Her early game lane phase is actually a little bit weaker now. Now let me show you why. Your HP is lowered by 30. Your base HP by 30. That's huge. Now, Syndra's Q, which has been the main, like, if you guys remember, maybe a year or 2 ago, people were very annoyed by Syndra at the fact that she had a 4-second Q cooldown with like 40 mana cost, 60 mana cost, whatever it was, and it would do like 100 damage. So she just had a very good lane phase. And everyone was like very annoyed at that. Now, her Q is increased by 3 seconds total. So it's a 7-second cooldown now throughout the entire game instead of 4. The mana cost, however, is reduced later on. It's still 40 at level 1 though. The sphere duration is actually increased. I think they reverted this, but it's not in these notes here. So yeah, your sphere duration is only 6 seconds still. And now this is where you get your upgrades. So at 40 Splinters of Wrath, now you can store 2 spheres in your Q, which is different compared to right now where when you max out your Q on Syndra, you deal increased damage to enemy champions with your Q. So you're losing damage, I guess, in a way, but you're getting 2 spheres, but it's still a higher cooldown. That's interesting. Very interesting. It's going to allow her to, like, I guess, have better control in team fights because you're going to have 2 charges of your Q. You can, like, Q one direction for poke, and then you can Q another direction, maybe defensively, so that you can stun. Who knows? Your W, the pickup detection radius is increased by 50 units. I'm not sure how much of a difference that makes. I think that just means, like, if your curse is on it or not. This is, like, I guess if you suck, it's better for you. Prevents non-sphere units from dying for a brief period when picked up. That's cool, I guess. You could pick up a cannon minion and it will survive. And at 60 Splinters, so it's like halfway mark of your scaling. Halfway mark of your scaling, you get an additional 15% true damage, which also scales off of 100 AP. Nice, interesting, cool. True damage. Similar to what you get right now. I think right now you just get 15%. I don't think it scales off of AP though. So that's cool. Scatter of the Week. So it's actually lower damage overall. 30 base damage is gone at max rank, 10 in the early game. You're also losing 5% AP. Now this is very cool. So they're actually increasing the scatter range. Now this is interesting. So I don't know what her scatter is currently, like the degree, the angle, but yeah, it's being increased by a fuck ton, I guess. But doing lower damage, so they're shifting it to a more like utility spell, which obviously shows us that they want your main damage to be your Q and your W. Your E is more so going to be utility, I guess. Less damage, but more utility. Cooldown is actually lower in the early game. It's a flat 15 at all ranks, so it's a little bit higher late game, but it is what it is. Stun duration is down by 0.25. Reduce failure chances of close EQ combo. That shouldn't be a thing. So if you guys don't know, you can EQ as Syndra, and you get like a really good it's a cool little like self CC, I guess, like self peel. You know, if an assassin jumps on you, you can E them, and then you can Q at max range, so they'll get knocked back, and then the ball will knock back afterwards. So you're actually like CCing them for longer duration than you would if you were QEing. But now they're making it easier, I guess, to do the combo, because it is sort of unreliable. At 80 Splinters of Wrath, you now have the increased cone again, which I assume is higher degree than current as well. And you also slow the enemy for 70% after the initial CC for 1.25 seconds. That's actually pretty good. Your ulti. Grant Dark Sphere Q an additional 10, 20, 30 ability haste. Oh, wow. So your Q cooldown gets lowered based on your ultimate level. That's similar to Irelia ultimate, I guess. That's very cool. Let's see. Yeah, so your ulti does less damage overall in terms of the base damage, and the AP ratio lower. But now you execute enemy champions. Now you execute them if they're below 15%. That's really good, actually. That's really insane. So overall, they're trying to make it so she's more of like a scaling mage. Because currently, she gets outskilled by a lot of stuff. Her lane phase is still like Syndra lane phase. It can be very good in a traditional control mage versus control mage matchup, or Syndra into some of her more traditional assassin matchups. She's able to survive, right? But in a lot of like newer matchups, like all the new champs they're releasing, it's harder for her to play the game, obviously, slightly. And item rework and everything, durability patch just made her weaker overall. So yeah, they're trying to shift a lot of late game power, I guess, like trying to make her more of a late game champion. She scales better. She has more utility, I guess, in a way.